Welcome to Real Talk. I'm Faisal Karmali, and today's show is with Joe McFarland. He is the biggest radio show host in Calgary. I'm calling it out. There's a reason why I brought him on here. Not because of the radio side, because this guy has side hustles, side businesses. So we're going to talk to Joe about side hustles, side businesses, and he's going to give us his 3 tips on how to help your business grow. We brought you on this show because there are many Canadians out there who've got their regular job.
Yep.
Your job is unique. Your job is cool. I like it.
I'd say unique's one way of putting it. Yeah.
So, you and I get to banter back and forth every day on radio talking about business news and so forth. And you have your show on radio and you've got a very far reach. You've got all of Southern Alberta listening to you and where you get to express yourself. And that's the gig. That's your job.
Yep.
But we've talked off air quite a bit.
A lot.
And we've talked off air about some of the side gigs, your side hustles. And we've been talking about side hustles for a while. It's a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Joe, why in the heck, if you've got such a great gig, do you want to have a side hustle?
I had too much free time on my hands for the first little while there. Also, I don't want to call it the benefit because I love my wife to death.
Yes.
But when I was single, it was a lot easier to go and do different things. And it all kind of started, the side hustles are, I'm game day host for the Calgary Stampeders, the Calgary Hitmen, fill in for the Flames and Roughnecks wherever they kind of need me. I did the UFC Dinos football team as well, Calgary Bantam football, I was the PA announcer for a few years. That's one of the side hustles. The other couple, one is, it's called Alberta Dugout Stories. It's a baseball-based podcast and online magazine, I guess you could call it that, telling the stories of baseball in Alberta. And then I also contribute to a blog and podcast called Canes This Week, which is based out of Lethbridge, based on the Hurricanes, the WHL team. And I kind of all started the announcing side of it as sort of a add-on to the radio thing, right? Like you get asked, can you MC this event or MC this event or whatever the case may be. And this whole hosting gig actually started with the Medicine Hat Tigers when I was working there. I'd filled in a couple of times in 2006, 2007. And then when I went back to Medicine Hat for my radio gig in 2008, the Tigers had an opening and said, would you be the full-time guy? Yeah. And I said, sure. So I spent 2 years with the Tigers. And then when I left, the owners of the Tigers, to their credit, Brent and Daryl Mazer, said, we'll put in a good word with you with the Flames. And I kind of went, yeah, right.
Sure.
Not realizing how small the sports world is and the hockey world is. Within a week of me moving to Calgary, I got a phone call from Jordy McLeod with the Flames who said, we've never had a fill-in guy for the Hitmen. And it just sort of progressed from there where I became more and more well-known as being the host who makes a lot of noise and is willing to blow out his voice to get the crowd into it and have fun and enjoy things. And so I've never really let go of that. And then I met my wife and started dating, and then I started to go, okay, maybe I need to do an audit of my time. Okay. And so I've kind of scaled some of that back, but I'm still keeping to the core.
So was the passion with sports from the get-go? Is that why you went down that path?
Oh, yeah. And part of it, obviously being a small-town kid, the Flames were my dream team. The Stamps were my dream team. Like, I'm living the dream because I get to go into these barns that I loved growing up, right? Like, this is a place that I grew up wanting to play hockey in, although unfortunately I knew full well at about the age of 4 that I was never going to get into hockey. But I've loved sports, and I never would have thought in a million years that would be the path that I took, but I've been afforded that opportunity, and now I milk it for all it's worth, right? Like, very, very, very few people get to do what I get to do on the hosting sphere, like whether it's McMahon or the Dome, and so you're going to have to pry that microphone out of my cold, dead hands before I give it up kind of thing.
Yeah. So you have a passion. It was sports.
Yep.
You get to go into all the arenas, places that you would dream to play in. There must have been points in time where things didn't go according to plan.
All the time.
Failure or something that's gone wrong. Give me a story about when things went wrong.
World Juniors, 2011, 2012.
You did the World Juniors?
I did the World Juniors, yeah. The failure comes in about 3 games into that week or 10 days, whatever the World Juniors are. And I had made a practice during the course of, especially because I was doing a lot of the morning games, which didn't involve Canada. So it's easy to get the Canadian fans involved. but there were still 6 to 12,000 people in attendance for the 11 o'clock games featuring every team imaginable. So I got into this practice of pitting the fans against one another during certain promotions. And I'd be, who here is cheering for Denmark? Who here is cheering for Sweden, right? It was Denmark and Latvia. And I had just finished giving away a Denmark jersey. So I'm like, all right, who here is cheering for Denmark? Get the applause. All right, who here is cheering for? And I blank. And my usual go-to in those moments is before a promo even goes, I try to find the sponsor logo on the ice or on the boards or something just as a visual reminder. And I'm like, okay, well, look up at the flags. What do you think a Latvian flag looks like? Right? Like, at the time, I panic. I'm just like, deer in the headlights, and I wait for a couple of seconds, and I'm like, all right, make some noise, and I got the heck out of Dodge as quick as I could. And I know I kind of hesitate in calling those failures, but I overanalyze those moments of that wasn't quite up to snuff or that wasn't quite where I needed to be, and I've learned from them.
Got you. So there's failures along the way or hurdles. Mm-hmm. How do you prepare, or what do you have to do to avoid those moments of failure?
I say don't avoid the failure. And I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but I love failure. You don't learn anything from constant success. Sometimes you need to be slapped around a little bit. It's how you react to the slapping around that is actually going to make you learn something from it and move on past that. It's not about wanting the failure. It's about accepting the failure and understanding what you need to learn from it to grow from it.
I think wanting the success or the definition of what success is to you, if you're driven for that, mm-hmm. then failure is not even an option because everything's a learning outcome, not a failure.
Right. And it's not a be-all, end-all. But it could have been really easy for others to go, I'm never doing that again because that scared the crap out of me and I failed miserably and I shouldn't, I'm obviously bad at my job.
Correct.
No, you take it for what it's worth. It was a moment in time in which, I had my brain farted right at the wrong spot. Yeah. But to learn from that and go, okay, what do I need to do to make sure I'm better prepared for the next promo? I remember reading an article. It was in a Guitar World magazine because I play a little bit of guitar on the side. And it was from Steven Tyler of Aerosmith. And he said, you're only as good as your next single. And at the time I read it and went, well, that's not a big deal. But when I apply that to my life is you're only as good as your next promo. So be prepared for that promo. Be ready for the next thing that comes up. My radio show this afternoon, I'm only as good as that show is going to be. You can judge me on everything else, but it's all in the past, right? That doesn't define who I am or who I'm going to be for my show today.
You're doing all this stuff as a side gig.
Yep.
Why not do it as your full-time? Get rid of radio. Get to do the things like the baseball, the Canes,
mm-hmm. Everything.
Hosting. Just do that.
Money, man. No, I'm kidding. It really isn't. Part of it is, it's obviously. Money. The other part of it is I love the gig that I'm doing now.
Okay.
I've been really lucky in the sense of I get to storytell. And in my past life, for those who aren't aware, went from Lloydminster to Medicine Hat to Calgary, back to Medicine Hat to Calgary. And in that time, I've been a news anchor, news reporter, and now talk show host. And in every single element of that, I get to be creative and I get to tell stories. And that is at the heart of everything that I do, whether it's giving away a prize at a hockey game or whether that is doing a segment about building the perfect resume, which I'm trying to do today, right? Like I get to do that and I don't consider it work. I love what I do. Yeah. And the old saying is, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I'm still waiting for that day where I actually have to go to work.
I think a lot of people don't understand that you can love multiple things and do them all.
Oh, yeah. But it's a matter of understanding that there is a limit to the time that you can dedicate to that. Sure. And ultimately what it amounts to, and I've been really good at, I think, auditing my time on an ongoing basis to understand what I can and can't commit to. There was a time in the past where I would do, on a Saturday, 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. doing the PA announcing for Calgary Bantam football. And then I'd run over to McMahon Stadium to do a Dinos game from 1 until 4. And then I'd take a little bit of a break and then run down to the Dome to do a Hitmen game. tried convincing my wife to do that on a Saturday. Would go over like a lead balloon, right? And so my priorities have changed over the years, and rightfully so. Yeah, you and I have talked a lot about, the different jobs and the side hustles and all that. What's most important to me, if you were to say, what's your job? I'm a husband first. I'm a son. I'm a brother first. I will drop everything in a heartbeat if my family says, you need to do this.
I hear so many people say, I can't make ends meet. I need to earn extra income. You have the talent and the capabilities to go and host a football game. Most people can't do that.
Correct.
So you found something within your skill set. How frustrated are you when you hear the same, and you get a lot more call-ins and tweets and messages coming in about, this is pissing me off. I'm not getting my fair share.
Right.
Screw the government. It's somebody else's fault.
Blame is such a crippling thing. A lot of people tend to forget that we live in a really cool era now where it's the information age. It's the information superhighway. Yeah. You have the internet at your disposal. You have all of these resources available to you. Utilize them. Use them to your advantage. If you're really that hard up for work, you can go online and search for stuff. You can, if you've got a bunch of stuff sitting in your basement. I've started doing this.
You started doing that.
I've started doing it.
I almost bought something from you.
Oh, that's right too, actually. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't hook you up with that Raptors jersey.
It was a bit too small for me. It was a kid's jersey he was trying to sell. I had no idea it was a kid's jersey.
But one of the things that I came to realize when we moved into our house in Airdrie was I had a boatload of stuff that would never find a home anywhere in my house. Yeah. So I was like, well, might as well just sell it for $20, $30, $50, whatever the case may be.
Whatever.
I've probably made close to $1,000 already off this stuff.
That's what I want to address, that there are many people, and let's talk some business owners.
Yep.
Shit's not working.
Yep.
We're not making ends meet. We might have to lay off people, so on and so forth. And some are actually laying off or firing people. Yep. Some are saying they want to all staff take a pay cut so that everybody can still stay employed. But the business owner usually is the last one to get paid.
Right.
And so now they're struggling. Yep. But they can do other things.
100%. And it's just a matter of identifying what you love or what you can, I'll call it what you can tolerate. And I don't know if that's the right word
I think
to
it's
deal
a good
with
word.
it. But it's that understanding that you have 24 hours in a day.
Correct.
You have 8 hours of sleep. In theory, that's ultimately what you want. You're spending your 9 to 5, your 8 to 4, whatever, at work, which is kind of a lie because you're probably spending closer to 5 hours doing your 9 to 5 because you're between lunch breaks and smoke breaks and Facebook time and all that kind of stuff. So what are you doing with that other 8 hours or 11 hours or 12 hours that you're not actually at work or sleeping?
So there's a single parent that I know of. Good guy, loves his family, really spends a lot of time with his kids, scared that his business is going to go under,
right?
Trying to get more revenue. He goes, I can't make ends meet, Faisal. It's a tough time right now. And I said, well, why don't you do a side hustle? And he goes, yeah, I'm trying. I might referee a football game or referee. You get an hourly rate. You just bought a job.
Right.
How are you going to catapult for your kids? Well, I don't have enough time. You don't have enough time? I went on his social media.
Right.
On his Instagram, he's posting, I'm at the hockey rink. I'm out having a beer. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. What the fuck are you doing all that stuff for when you can go out and actually do a side hustle?
Or beyond that is if you really don't want to spend that time on the side hustle, audit what you're spending money on, period. You mentioned the beer side of it. Yeah. I go back to, why are you spending $8 on a coffee? Why have we allowed ourselves to overextend ourselves from a personal standpoint? To your point, if it's a revenue issue, then figure out what you need to do to make the money. You got to make it work.
Like so you talk to a lot of people on the air. A lot of them are business owners. A lot of them are bitching about business owners. Oh, they make too much money. They have it easy, tax breaks, whatever. The people who connect with you on the radio, what would you say is the biggest issue that they have right now when it comes to business, making money, entrepreneurship? Let's stay in that kind of category because you talk about everything.
Right. Biggest issue
or complaint?
I think it's kind of twofold, and it comes down to investment. Are you investing in the money, or are you investing in your employees? one of the things that especially here in Alberta, everybody's talking about is minimum wage as an example. And I learned a really, really good lesson from my dad growing up. Between high school and university, I took a year off. And I said, I'm going to go, I want to work. I want to make sure that I don't have to work full time while also going to school. And during that year, my dad gave me, I might be messing up the numbers a little bit, but I think it was $10 for housework, $15 for yard work, and $20 for actual farm work. And at the time, minimum wage is like $7, $8, right? And I asked him, I said, well, why are you giving me more than minimum wage? And he says, why would we give you minimum wage when you can go over to the neighbor's house and go work for them for 10 or 12 or 15 when I know I'm going to be getting good ROI on what you're going to be bringing to the table? I know what you're going to do. I know you're going to be dedicated to the job, and you're going to feel like you kind of owe me something. And I kind of took that away and went, if you pay your employees well, they're going to give back doubly because they're going to actually care about the work they do. And I think sometimes that's a big misperception, misconception here in this province is you got to cut back, you got to cut back, you got to cut back. When realistically, the long-term ROI of paying employees decent wages is that they're going to stay with you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people here in this city and in this province get caught up in what the dollar figures are at the end of the day instead of understanding that, hey, maybe you need to do a little bit more investing to actually get more ROI down the road.
So here's what business owners have told me. I take the risk. I do a lot more work than my staff. Why should I pay them more than the minimum wage? That's what the market value is for that job.
Is it really?
So let's have that conversation.
Is it really?
So if the government has put a standard in, and let's make it at $15 an hour,
right,
and you're doing a job that doesn't require high skill, shouldn't you just get paid $15 an hour and call it a day?
It depends on what the ultimate goal is. And this comes from both sides of it. If you're an employer who's paying $15 an hour, you're going to get what you pay for. On the flip side of that, as an employee, if you're just doing a job just because, why should you be expecting anything more?
I think at $15 an hour minimum wage, you're just doing it for the money. I think when you get paid more, there's an expectation
a bit of an incentive.
You're adding value to that business. You're an important or integral part.
Right.
We all grew up working, and so you'd go and I used to work in a bingo hall.
Right.
Slogging coffee to old ladies as they pinched my butt going down the row.
Right.
Minimum wage. The pinching the butt got me some tips too, so I got some extra cash there.
Well, what was the end goal with that?
Cash.
Sorry, I've turned this around on you all of a
you're
sudden because now I get to interview you. But what was the end goal there?
It was to get the cash so I can go to university.
Right. But you see, there's the key. It wasn't just about the money. It was about something else.
There was a destination,
right?
For sure.
What's the destination at the end of the day? And
but
so
for that
those employers need to understand, hey, okay, why do I have such high turnover? Well, maybe you need to ask yourself that question. The high turnover is because you're not paying your employees or giving them. It might not even be a money issue, right? Like it might be just a morale sucks here.
Yeah.
If you've got high turnover, or if you've got employees that when you look at their resume, it looks like they've been around the block for eons and eons. You might want to ask yourself why.
Yeah.
And again, from an employee standpoint, is if you are constantly, I call this smelly kid syndrome. At some point, if you're constantly having to change jobs and you don't know why, maybe you're the smelly kid on the bus.
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe after the analogy goes is you're the smelly kid, everybody's moving around, people are leaving. And if you're the only one kicking around at the end of the day, maybe you're the smelly kid.
I'm going to use that.
I think that was from How I Met Your Mother, so I can't even take responsibility for that one. But
so there's business owners today who are not valuing what you're saying.
Right.
They're like, it's $15 and they're going to have these problems.
Right. And some people are okay with that. And that's
their biz.
Absolutely. To each their own, right? Like as long as you're self-aware enough to know that, okay, this is the hill that I want to die on, or that I'm good with the turnover because I know that this is, I'll use convenience stores as the easy target. They know that they're going to be getting a high turnover and they're okay with that.
Do you think employees leave their place of work because of the manager or the money?
I would say manager. And I'll use this from the experience of being news director, being quote unquote the manager of the newsroom for 5 years here in Calgary. And I did a couple of years in Medicine Hat as news director as well. a lot of people can put up with low wages. They can't put up with an overbearing manager or someone who wants to micromanage or who allows for bad atmospheres or climates to run rampant in their offices. It meant so much to me over the course of that 5 years that I didn't have a ton of turnover. But I had one young gent leave. He pulls me into one of the studios, and he's got tears in his eyes, and he says, this is my notice, I'm giving you 3 weeks. And he says, Joe, I just want you to know, man. Starts crying. He goes, I'd go to war for you. Like you run this place so well, and you've got the respect of everybody here. And I know if it was somebody else, I'd been gone a long time ago. And that was sort of that moment of, okay, I think I'm doing this right. Yeah. Because I would never ask anybody to do something that I wouldn't do myself.
I would hate to have an employee on my team that's here just for the money.
Yeah.
Even if you pay them well or not, it's not the point. I would rather them be engaged and see the mission and the vision that we have and try to be part of that solution to that mission than just be there for the money.
Well, and you get to see something get built. When I went back to Medicine Hat in 2008, it was to launch a brand new radio station. So I was news director at the time, but we built it from the ground up. And I remember leaving 770 about a month earlier than I probably should have. And the whole rationale was, I said, I need the month just to go to every mover and shaker to say, hey, we're going to be launching a radio station in a month. And we want to be known as having the best newsroom in this city. We want to have a big city newsroom in small town Medicine Hat. So I went to the police chief, and I went to the mayor, and I went to every single councilor's office. And I spent that month on the ground. And it's not a rated market, so you don't know fully what, whether you're number 1 or number 5 or whatever the case may be. But I got a hold of some internal ratings from a competitor, and we were number 1. And I truly believe that was because of the legwork that not only myself, but the others on my team put towards making sure we were telling the stories of the community. And a big part of that was I had no turnover in that 2 years. Why? Because the team was bought into the mentality of, hey, this is ours.
You did something that I think many business owners don't do before they start up. Mm-hmm. Think of a retail location in Calgary.
Right.
And they're going to set up a shop. They put a big sign, maybe some little wavy thing in the wind or whatever that thing is called, and balloons, and that's it.
Because I think that there's an expectation that starting up a business is a license to make money, and it's not. And I'll use a really interesting example to this is I did an interview with the Alberta Small Brewers Association yesterday on my show, and they said in the last, I can't remember if it's 10 years, I think it's been 10 years, they've ballooned from 13 small breweries in this province to 120. And
holy shit.
Yeah. And a part of me said, that's awesome. The other part of me said, that can't be good because there's going to be a bunch of those businesses that are going to be out of business in a year because the market side, right?
You got microbreweries, cannabis companies.
I was just about to say, you and I have talked about cannabis at length
a lot, right?
On that particular issue.
Just talking about the topic, not doing any of it, just so we know.
Yeah. To be clear.
We've talked about technology companies. Anytime you've got a big mass amount of entries into the market, they can't all survive.
Right. Because you only have so much of a pie to divvy up. And so you have to be, as a business owner, self-aware enough to know what your share of that pie is going to be and understand that anything above and beyond it is gravy.
You look at businesses today, in this province specifically, they think, I'm going to open up a business. They're actually buying a job. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just going to...
Or not even buying a job. They're buying... that short-term gain, whether it's disgruntled employee who gets fired who says, I can do this a whole lot better than my old boss. And I think a lot of businesses fail to understand that you need to have not just how we're going to be operational from today to a year from now or 6 months from now, but you need to be thinking, are you hoping to create more offices down the line? Are you hoping to franchise down the line or whatever the line of work is?
Have some sort of plan for the future.
And it's interesting, going back to the beer conversation, that's one of the biggest challenges that here in this province they face is the interprovincial trade aspect of it.
Yeah.
If you're going to build a bigger business plan or bigger business, Can you just depend on the Alberta market, or are you going to do more to be looking outside our borders down the line? Can you look to the States as an example of, can you export beer down there to be sold at a better market share and then bring the profits back up?
It's doing your homework.
And so that's exactly it.
It's doing your homework to understand what your reach is. Mm-hmm. And when you open up a microbrewery and you find out you're stuck between 2 or 3 provinces and that has a population of 3 million people and you might get 10,000 people buying your stuff, there's your business. 10,000 people.
Yep.
And that's it. You're done.
And maybe you're happy with that. Right.
And maybe you're happy with that.
That's where the self-awareness piece comes in, and you go, okay, what is our ultimate plan? Is it to, this is a nice $50,000 a year job that I have, or, that I'm making for a salary every year, or do I have aspirations to go province-wide or nationwide, and how do you get there?
Part of everything you mentioned goes back to that employee who gave you his 3 weeks notice.
Right.
Tears in his eyes. Mm-hmm. There was something that he said that's going to stick with me forever. Mm-hmm. I'm prepared to go to war with you, mm-hmm. but I have to leave. Yep. Not many employees will do that with their business owners, with their managers. What qualities do you need?
You're making me be self-reflective.
Well, I think you can identify what a good boss, what a good owner, what a good entrepreneur, when they have employees. Mm-hmm. You displayed those qualities. Yep. I think we need to kind of make it clear for everybody that this is the shit that people need to have, and if you're not going to have it, get ready to lose your employee.
Okay, I'll start off with a point that I think I've made a little bit earlier on, which is I would never ask my employees to do something that I wouldn't be willing to do myself. And a part of that comes with the experience of having done the jobs of everybody else previously. I'm going in with zero expectation to my employees. I'm going in with all the expectation of me first. One other thing that I think I hope I did a good enough job of was making sure I checked in with my employees on a regular basis, sitting them down, even if it's for 5 minutes a week or 5 minutes a day. And you can some employees don't like those kinds of check-ins and would rather that you left them alone. And you have to be aware of that and understand that. But some employees need that opportunity to spout off about something, or they like that check-in. And so you got to know each individual employee for what they like, but make sure they know that you care. Make sure they know that you are there for them. One of the things I said in the newsroom is I will always buffer you from everything else that's going on above me. My job isn't to pass down stuff to you. My job is to answer down, not answer up. And that seemed to resonate with everybody.
3 tips to business owners going through what everything's happening right now.
Oh, man. Number 1, I think, is do a self-audit. That's everything. Whether it is the number of employees you have, whether it's your bottom line, whether it's your goals and aspirations, like just take a step back and go, what do I have and what do I need? What do I want? And if you can define your goals, if you can define what all those are, then it becomes a little more crystal clear. Number 2 would be to invest in not just the money side of it, but the human side of it. Learn to care, essentially. It's really easy to, and especially in today's political climate and the geopolitical climate that we're seeing, is that there's not a lot of care, there's not a lot of empathy, there's not a lot, like it's all dollars and cents, and we've got a health budget, we've got an education budget, we've got this, and we're talking about budget when we forget about we're dealing with real people with real issues. So when you take that step back, number 2 is understand that you have employees who are probably feeling the same kinds of pressures you are. In times like this, you got to be stronger together as a team. And if you're not, you're going to fail. You're bound to fail. Number 3, understand yourself personally. It's one thing to define your business aspirations, what you have as a business. Make sure that you're not forgetting about yourself. Whether it's your mental health, whether it's your family, whether it's your own personal wealth, you've got to be able to define that as well. Because if you're not happy, especially as a business owner on a personal level, you're never, ever going to be happy on a business level either. Because those two, as much as you don't think they are married together.
Amen. All right, thanks for coming, Joe.
Thanks for having me.
For more business tips, for more ideas, you need to subscribe to this channel because Real Talk is going to give you way more information. Make sure you're subscribed, and thank you for watching.